Ladies and gentlemen, the Supreme Court has essentially already blocked and prevented any prolonged jail sentence. There's a 5% chance that hit subscribe to this channel right now. There's a 5% chance, maybe 7-8% chance that he actually steps foot in Rikers Island, which is what Democrats want, but it ain't going to happen in terms of them incarcerating Trump. The indictment, the conviction was unconstitutional. I speak about that every day. Legal scholars from Jonathan Turley to Alan Dershowitz to John Yoo have stated a state cannot, and everyone knows this, a state cannot level a federal charge against anyone without the federal government involved. Say it again a million times. A state, in this case New York, cannot level an FEC charge at anyone if the FEC dropped the hush money case in this case. And the Department of Justice did not indict Trump on anything to do with a federal campaign finance issue or campaign laws. The FEC and DOJ didn't touch the case. The state of New York took it upon itself to convict Trump on a federal crime. No state has the right to do that. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's get first to President Donald Trump. Then we'll explain exactly why the Supreme Court has already prevented any prolonged and blocked any prolonged jail sentence. It's going to be overturned. The conviction will be overturned. That's a given. It'll be just one of many Supreme Court victories for Trump. He'll win in November. Hit subscribe and be here in November as well.
We just have breaking news, as I mentioned in my open tonight, and I want to get your reaction to the fact that the appeals court has now stopped your Georgia case, election case, while appeal on Willis's disqualification is pending. This is on the heels of Florida Judge Eileen Cannon looking into whether or not the prosecutor, Jack Smith, the special prosecutor.
And the Florida judge did toss the case. So this is several weeks back. But he keeps getting victory after victory in terms of Supreme Court and legal victories in terms of, every single one of the cases have been dismantled. The D.C. case, the Florida case. The only issue is overturning the unconstitutional conviction for the hush money, which wasn't even. You have former FEC Chairman Bradley Smith, Hanze von Spakovsky, and Trey Traynor all say that he could have paid with dollar bills. It still wouldn't have been a campaign finance issue. He would not have broken the law because it would have been an activity that would have happened with or without a campaign for the presidency. Every one of his indictments have been thrown out except the conviction, which will be overturned eventually, just like the ballot, just like the Colorado issue was overturned as well. They tried to ban him in Colorado. That was overturned. They tried to indict him in D.C. You had a huge immunity victory. They tried to get him in Florida. That was thrown out. They tried to get him in Georgia. That was essentially thrown out as well. So the only thing is and this is a blatant attempt at going after your direct political rivals. This has nothing to do with the rule of law. Otherwise, Democrats would do the same thing to other Democrats. It doesn't work that way. So this is completely unconstitutional. We'll get to that in a second.
Was pointed in an inappropriate way, which would render the case and the indictments out completely. That is going to take place in fairly short order. A lot can change in a couple of days with only 152 days out of election.
And what we call him deranged Jack Smith, because you look at his career, he's been overturned by the Supreme Court unanimously. So many other things. He goes too far.
Let me ask you this. You had said something during the trial in New York. Mother Teresa couldn't beat these charges was one thing that you said, and you turned out to be right. And secondly, you were asked about the possibility that Judge Merchan might send you to jail. You said something that really kind of got my attention. What did you say? That it didn't faze you in the sense that if that's what it takes, you don't have to be doing this. You could be playing golf every day and you probably wouldn't be charged with anything.
Well, I think I say it about almost all of these cases that are brought against me. They are doing it for the purposes of hurting a political opponent of Biden and trying to get him to win, and he's the worst president in the history of our country. But in the case that you're talking about, I said very strongly that I'm very proud to fight for our Constitution, and if that's what it takes. Everybody said, this is such a minor thing. You don't go to jail for this, all of them. But you don't understand.
They want to send Trump to jail. They want him in Rikers Island. Okay, they want him in jail. They 100% want to send Trump to jail. I think it's a 90% chance that the judge actually sentences him to a jail term before November. I think that's what they want. It's not going to work out. None of this is going to work out. I think we're very close to a stock market collapse. And there's a number of factors. I mean, you look at some of the swing state polls, and then you get Harris up 11 points. Then it goes, Harris up 1, Trump up 3. So you get these absurd anomalies, these outlier polls that are Harris up 15. And then Harris is up 0.5 or 1 point in a swing state. It's like, well, yeah, you had a poll that showed Harris up 11. What did you expect? Okay, the real issue is, have they addressed the concerns of Trump and other Republicans? And Tim Pool, love Tim Pool, watch him like pretty much every day, along with a whole bunch of other people, Stick, Sex, and Hammer, a lot of great content creators I watch. There has to be an emphasis on some of the concerns Trump and other Republicans have expressed. We'll leave it at that. If they don't address these concerns, then it's a curveball. Then it's a sinker. It's not a straight fastball. Okay, so I'll use baseball terminology. I still think Trump, no matter what, is going to win. I don't see Harris and Waltz winning for a number of reasons, primarily because their economic plan is a Soviet-style economic plan. They want to literally decide the price of goods because they can't admit that their policies have led to inflation. So let's continue.
Understand what we're dealing against, Sean. We're dealing against a system that is so corrupt. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. I did nothing wrong in any of these things. I did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong at all. And whether you look at the analysts, whether it's Greg Jarrett or Andy McCarthy or Jonathan Turley or your friend, the great one, Mark Levin, Dershowitz, all of them, they said there's no case here. Judge Jeanine was so incredible 2 weeks ago. She was unbelievable. Angry. She was angry. And you know why they're angry? Because they love our country and they see what's happening. It's totally unconstitutional what they've done. And if you look at the statements made by the people I just mentioned, and I'm not friends with any, I think they respect what I've done. They might respect me. They might not respect me. But they said there's no case. It shouldn't have been brought. And the way the judge charged the jury, told the jury, gave jury instructions, nobody's ever heard anything like that.
It was basically, when you break it down, a records-keeping issue on a misdemeanor whose statute of limitations had run out, that they upcharged into a felony on a federal election, and that raises another issue of appeal. What will be your
appeal? By the way, when you say records-keeping, you know what the record-keeping was? They charged an election, if you look, a lawyer's fee. Yeah. A legal fee, and you call it a legal expense. It's known. You call a legal fee a legal expense. The bookkeeper, who I never spoke to, correctly wrote a legal expense for a lawyer that was paid.
We have a similar case. Hillary Clinton funneled money to a law firm, and that law firm hired an op research firm, and that op research firm hired a guy by Christopher Steele. That became the basis of what I described as the dirty Russian misinformation dossier. That became the basis of not one but 4 FISA applications, and it all turned out not to be true. So in that case...
So then do you indict everyone involved in that under 18 U.S. Code 371? If you're a liberal Democrat, you're an attorney, and you think that Trump is guilty of everything under the sun because he deceived the country regarding his views on what was fair and just or not fair or unjust 4 years ago, What about the people who deceived the country pertaining to Trump being a Kremlin or Russian operative? That never happened. So is that not deception? Was that not deceiving the United States of America, knowing very well there was no evidence that he was working for another country? Oh, no, that was a legitimate concern. So when Democrats when they make statements that are completely categorically, patently false, and then we find out that they're patently false, it's always, well, we had the reason to be suspicious. With Trump, God forbid he speculates or he's suspicious in any way, shape, or form. Then it's an affront to humanity, democracy, decency, and everything good in the world. And so they demand absolute categorical evidence immediately whenever Trump says anything pertaining to his distrust of Democrats. Democrats can actually accuse Trump of everything under the sun without any direct evidence at all, point to a Steele dossier and intelligence reports that aren't evidence at all. They're just speculation, and essentially they're speculation. And then we can find out that it was all for naught. It was all wrong, false. But nobody is indicted under the same statute that Trump is indicted on. Why?
Well, nobody was charged. Nobody was charged with top secret classified information. Her home wasn't raided on her server. Deleted subpoenaed emails, 30,000 of them. We didn't hear a bleach bit. Then you have all the people that signed off on those warrants. Nothing happens to them. Joe Biden, 4 locations, top secret documents. Nobody raided his house. That, I guess we've added a new word to our lexicon, and that is lawfare, or weaponization of justice.
That's right.
My question to you is, and people are saying, actually because of an interview we did together, you said, I would be dictator for the day and just to secure the border and drill for oil. I thought it was tongue-in-cheek. I was sitting there.
And then, of course, media was, he wants to be authoritarian. He wants to be an authoritarian. Oh, my God, he wants to be a tyrant. He's saying it out loud. He's saying it out loud.
With you. However, my question is a very serious one. You know, people are claiming you want retribution. People are claiming you want what has happened to you done to Democrats. Would you do that ever?
Look, what's happened to me has never happened in this country before. And it has to stop because...
Wait a minute. I want to hear that again. It has to stop.
Well, it does have to stop because we're not going to have a country
And if you're
anymore.
elected, what does that mean? Define that.
Look, what I've gone through, nobody's ever gone through. I'm a very legitimate person. I built a great business.
He is. He was the darling of Hollywood, music. He was part of Americana. If the same Hollywood celebrities and musicians saw Donald Trump backstage or in a green room or in a studio, they would elbow each other away to shake his hand. Once they were told, I mean, the cult and the programming and the artificial intelligence code, software, it's basically when media, when the New York Times, Washington Post, MSNBC, CNN, Atlantic, Hollywood, when they don't like somebody, it's overwhelming 24/7 negative media coverage. Nobody can withstand that. Biden couldn't withstand 3 weeks of it. Trump has had 8 years of it, and he's still going strong. That's stronger than ever, actually. And so if he doesn't win, if Trump doesn't win, well, I'll give you a scenario. Let's say Trump loses and Harris and Waltz win. They will indict, and this is my humble opinion, RFK Jr. They will try to indict Elon Musk. They will try to indict anyone with a platform, a major, huge, global platform that doesn't play ball. So, and that goes for billionaires that have, independent thought, God forbid. That goes for, people with influence, major influence globally. They will try to indict those people. And they'll try to convict those people and imprison those people. And whereas you had a laptop full of a litany of crimes with Hunter and Joe, They don't look at that. Okay? They look at any political opponent and then they feign indignation and they use the pretense of legitimacy to go after their political rivals. So to them, it was above the rule of law. It's not about the rule of law because they don't go after Democrats in the manner they've gone after Trump. And like again, they will go after RFK Jr., Elon Musk, anyone with a platform, like a global platform.
Everything's been, I have been under siege. Nobody's ever seen anything like this in this country. Now, in other countries, in other third world countries, or banana republics, as they say, a banana republic, we've become a banana republic. At the border, we've become a banana republic.
Thank you for the kind words, everybody. Greatly appreciated.
Like with so many other elements of our country, we become a banana republic. You take a look at what's happening with inflation. That's a banana republic inflation, what we have. I think it could be as high as 50% if you add everything in. When you start adding energy prices in, when you start adding interest rates, which have gone from 2% to 9 and 10%.
But focus on those that want people to believe that you want retribution, that you will use the system of justice to go after your political enemies.
So, number one, they're wrong. It has to stop because otherwise we're not going to have a country. Look, when this election is over, based on what they've done, I would have every right to go after them. And it's easy because it's Joe Biden. And you see all the criminality, all of the money that's going into the family and him, all of this money from China, from Russia, from Ukraine. During one of the interviews, I said, what about the $3.5 million paid to the Biden family from the mayor of Moscow's wife? What about that? And Chris Wallace defended him, said, you can't ask that question. Well, then it turned out to be a big deal long after that debate. That was one of the debates. And it turned out to be a big deal. And Chris Wallace said, we can't go there because we don't know that it should turn out to be true.
Whenever there's speculation of wrongdoing with a Democratic politician, it's if you don't have categorical proof, you have no right to speculate. With Trump, if something happens in the furthest reaches of Saturn or the Milky Way galaxy, if there's any way possible to link Donald Trump to it, it's out there. BuzzFeed says, oh, here's a dossier. It's unproven, but here it is. They will, the standard of journalism or the standard of skepticism when it comes to, or suspicion when it comes to Trump is any accusation without any proof is just fine. With Democrats, the indignation is unbelievable when you accuse and you speculate, and there's actual evidence, and it's, oh my God, do you have a written signed note from the Democratic politician claiming that they willingly accepted the bribe? Well, if you don't, you can't bring it up. That's how American politics works.
Millions and millions of dollars. Now,
if we're going to do dinner with her at the Cafe Milano.
I'm right now, as you know, in a...
He said to America he never once talked to his son, brother, or anybody about their foreign business deal.
Well, he said it, and then
And they say Trump lies all the time. Well, he tells the truth far more often than most politicians. That's his problem. He's not a politician. He's not diplomatic. He just says what's on his mind all the time. Actually, it's his political rivals, Biden, for example, lies infinitely more. Then you get CNN saying, we counted 30 times Trump lied. I counted 40 times Trump lied. Biden lied. In that one debate where that basically they ousted their nominee after he had won. And that's another thing. He lied all throughout the next 3 weeks. I'm staying. And then, of course, that wasn't a lie. So the Democrats are allowed to change their mind. They never lie. But he said he inherited inflation. That's it. So look at the lies. Trump will engage in a hyperbolic speech, and then they'll hyperventilate, and they'll say that he lies all the time about crowd size. He's not going to lie about inflation. He's not going to lie about economic numbers. Okay, he might say it's the greatest economy of all time, and then, somebody in a petulant manner will say, there's a point in the 50s that was better. It's like, okay, but this is still a great economy. With Trump, you had a great economy. By the way, if you're voting Harris and you don't like inflation, I'm not going to be like the Democrats who are like, you didn't do what we said, and now you've perished 4 years ago. But, which also, that was not accurate in the manner that they tried to portray. But anyway, if you're struggling financially, you vote Democrat. And I say this with all due respect. I don't want anyone to struggle financially. You're literally voting for a poor economy. You're literally voting for a bad economy. Why would you do this? Why? Because of Trump's tweets? He's not even on Twitter.
You found out it was absolutely untrue. Everything he says is untrue. There's never been a president like this. Look, he's a horrible president. He's destroying our country at the border. He's allowing millions of people to come in from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, which is a big step above a mental institution. He's allowing terrorists to flood into our country. And the numbers are probably 16, 17, or 18 million people. You're going to have over 20 million. It is weaponization of the election. And we're talking about, it was the real deal. These people have a lot of hatred, and they hate it. And then the fight ended, and they're hugging and kissing in the ring. They're down, sitting on they're hugging and kissing. It's like nothing happened. Happened on two fights. There were tremendous animosity between the two fighters and the other two fighters. And at the end, that's what happened. And in a certain way, after we won against Hillary, people would say, lock her up, lock her up. And I said, wouldn't it be terrible if I locked up the wife of the President of the United States, former, and locked up the former Secretary of State? It's a terrible thing. You're starting off, you want to bring the country together. I want to bring the country together. And success does bring the country together, because we had the most successful economy in the history of our country just prior to COVID. And
I love Trump, but this is not the mentality to have. It's very simple. The Democratic Party wants political power. That's it. Voters, people who choose Democrats in November, they don't care about the economy. They don't care about foreign policy. They have one or two left-leaning policy objectives that they've, focused on. And the economy, the overall economy and foreign policy is not important. That's how you judge a president historically. Okay? Inflation's going to keep going up because they're not going to change their energy policies. The energy policies are abysmal. Democrats pretend to care about the environment at home and then beg other countries to drill, baby, drill. But it's still one planet. Excuse me. It's still one planet. So you care about the environment here, but not the environment in other regions of the world. How does that work? So we're still going to have higher inflation. Interest rates are going to still remain high. They have to. They can't go down. You're going to have whether a stock market collapse before or after October, and it'll be directly the fault of Democratic Party policies. I just don't get why anyone would vote for Harris on Waltz. I don't get it. Harris didn't even win the nomination. I just don't understand. But anyway, let's continue.
Even at the end, I got it back. It was an amazing thing. But we had the most successful economy in history. And I was getting calls from radical left people wanting to meet. And I'm telling you, success. African American, Asian American, Hispanic American, women, men, people with diplomas, people without diplomas, people that went to MIT, Harvard, and Wharton, people that didn't get out of high school. The most successful economy we've ever had. And people that I would say, you call them on the radical left, call it whatever you want, liberal people, progressive people, they were all calling, and they were saying, let's get together, this is amazing. Every single group, nobody has ever done better than during that period of time in my administration, during that period. And they wanted to get together, and it would have happened. We would have happened. It was really something. I'm not sure I would have been able to say to you that there was a way to unify. Success will unify, and I think we're going to have a tremendous success. We have to.
But the issue is you don't have to unify anyone. You don't have to unify. Democrats are only focused on political power. They don't really care about unity. Okay, here's an example. Okay, they've wanted to do things that were unconstitutional against Trump for the past 3-4 years, and the Supreme Court continually prevents them from doing so. And just like they'll overturn the conviction, and they're preventing the jail sentence from a prolonged jail sentence. So let's listen to this.
The Supreme Court has ruled on the Trump ballot case, and they've ruled in Trump's favor. Molly Hemingway with us now. I know this is right, you're just coming right at us, Molly, but I want you to give us some significance of this, where it's going. Is Trump winning on this? Is Biden losing on this? Go.
Yeah, this was an issue where as soon as oral arguments were held, people expected the Supreme Court to say that Colorado's attempt to remove President Trump from the ballot would not be allowed. And I'm very curious to find out what the actual ruling is. Some people thought it would be 7-2 or maybe even unanimous. The questioning from the justices during oral arguments.
So it was unanimous. Even the liberal justices sided with Trump.
Was very critical of Democrats' attempts.
Molly, can I interrupt for just 1 second? I'm very sorry. It was a unanimous 9-0 decision.
Well, that really says a lot about this attempt to remove from the ballot the Republican nominee and keep from millions, tens of millions of Americans, the right to vote for whomever they want. There has been a lot of lawfare happening in this country against the Republican nominee, and it's not working very well. You just said it in your opening take with these polls showing that people are not supporting President Biden. And this is as lawfare is being engaged in across the country in Democrat areas such as Colorado, where they tried to say that Coloradoans would not have the right to vote for whom they want to if that person is Donald Trump. So it just really is a real big setback for Democrats in this effort that they have, and should be a reminder that using the courts for political gain is not a great approach.
Back to my editorial, as you noted there, I looked at the New York Times polling and the Fox polling, and it's very grim for the president. And I agreed with the Wall Street Journal that it's panic time at the White House. How serious is this? I mean, are they on the verge of saying, hey, no mas?
Well, the problem for Democrats, it is true that people do find President Biden to be very old, but the big problem is they wouldn't care about it if they liked how the country was being run. Nobody really thinks President Biden is running things anyway. So if they liked the policies, they would be willing to have him continue as a figurehead. The problem for Democrats is that it's a difficult difficult problem to overcome, because even if they replace him with someone else, it's not like Gavin Newsom is going to have better policies when it comes to the border or crime or the economy. If anything, they might even be worse. And so it is those policies where people say they do not feel their lives are better than they were under the previous administration. And that's kind of politics 101. Was your life better now than it was 4 years ago? And people are saying they have a chance to compare the previous presidency with the current one, and they're finding the previous one to be much more attractive.
What's Kamala Harris doing, calling for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza?
Well, they do have a Biden in the primary.
So that was one victory. Now we have another victory. And again, we started off with the victory in Florida with the judge tossing out the documents case. He's had about 4 or 5 major victories. The January defendants got a huge victory in the Supreme Court, and Justice Jackson sided with the Republicans and Trump on the sentencing of January defendants. So Trump continually gets major victories. It's interesting. When the courts side with Democrats, they're legitimate. When the courts don't side with Democrats, they should be abolished. They're illegitimate. It's terrible. And they're cronies of Trump. Let's continue.
Because we have word that the Supreme Court has issued a ruling on the extent of presidential immunity from criminal prosecution for conduct alleged to involve official acts during the tenure of President Trump. This is the big one we've been waiting for. It's consequential. It's really interesting that the Supreme Court in 248 years of our history has never actually ruled on this. So it is big and sweeping. And I have our political panel looking over this right now. Andy McCarthy, Chief Justice John Roberts has the writing on this. He's got the pen. Is that significant?
It's very significant. It's the most important case of the term in terms of the long-term interests of the executive branch, in terms of the short-term interests of Donald Trump. And it looks like, at least within the bounds of clear executive authority, what Chief Justice Roberts is saying is that the president clearly has immunity from prosecution. So the question is going to be, again, I think Trey underscored this before, is what is an official act? There's going to be a lot of litigation about that, and what's close to the core of clear executive constitutional authority versus the outer ambit of it.
Brett?
So, ladies and gentlemen, the official act of speaking to an attorney, let's say Michael Cohen, you can't convict Trump of anything pertaining to that. They say, well, you know, if you speak to an attorney and you're committing a crime that's not protected under attorney-client privilege, you haven't even proven that Trump committed a crime. He's protected under the First Amendment for his speech. His speech never told anyone to commit a crime. And what they're doing is they're indicting Trump, and they're trying to indict Trump and then have him prove the obvious, that he didn't tell anyone to commit a crime. But you can't do that to a former president. You can't do that to anybody, but especially a former president. Every president performs speeches. That's part of the job. That's like a huge part of the job. So now you'll be indicted. Now Trump or the next Republican president, I'm praying it's Trump. It'll be Trump. I don't see anyone winning but Trump in November. But so then you indict Democrats for speeches that are deceptive. And we don't even really know if it's really interesting. They try to create a government agency to police information that misinforms. But then they would always be fining themselves, because all they do is misinform and provide information that deceives and deceptive and information that is not accurate. But anyway, hit subscribe to this channel, people. I will see you tomorrow, everybody. God bless. I'll try to do a segment tonight. We're at 265,000 subscribers, people. It's because of you. We're on our way to 300,000. I think we'll hit around 300,000 in November. Hopefully more than that. And what can I say? God bless you. God bless America. Thanks, everybody.